Good afternoon. This afternoon, I'm very happy to welcome a great actress and producer from the United States, Miss Joycelyne Lew. She's been around for, things, The King and I, right, Joycelyne?
Yes, that was one of my first speaking parts.
Yes. How are you? How is everything? Thank you for joining the live.
Thank you. Everything's great.
Great.
Beautiful day here.
Joycelyne, yes, I see you have a very cult following, and while browsing your filmography, in addition to the link on Internet Movie Database, I saw that you have, in one of the website are selling your still photography, signed, black and white photography, like they used to do them, for a large amount of money. And I see you have a lot of fans who would like to purchase this.
Oh, well, I do a
um,
calendar every year, and I'm
Really,
working on a new one for the 2023.
congratulations.
So we have
Yes, don't
about
forget to
seven.
send me one to
Yes, I'll have
post
to
it
get your
here.
address.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining the live. It's a great pleasure for us to have you. I want to ask you, since we spoke about one of your early films, The King and I, I've read that you started to go to studio with your mother, right?
Well, my mother was um, in the business, before I was born. That's her passion.
Yes.
She wanted to be an actress. So she took me to the set when I was 3.5 years old. And that's
Really?
my
Hmm.
first time. But I was well fed. I was not a skinny child, and I was supposed to be a refugee. So they also, she curled my hair. I'm supposed to have straight hair. You can't have curly hair as an Asian refugee. So they had to put it under, and they told me not to run so it
Yes.
wouldn't, curls would not bounce out. So I had to just walk really slowly so the curls wouldn't show.
Yes, this is excellent. And I've seen you've been slowed down in the 50s and the 60s. I think at the time you were studying in UCLA, right? Before you become
Yes, I
full-time professional
studied
performer,
theater
correct?
arts, and I minored
Hmm.
in English and
Yes,
at UCLA. Then I went to Pepperdine and I got a master's in urban education. And I stayed another year to get a teaching credential at UCLA. But on the side,
yes,
I was all interested in so many different things. So I went to LA City College and took piano. And then I went to trade tech
yes,
and took fashion design. So
yes,
I just like to do a lot of different things. And then I did comedy with the Groundlings. And then I
yes.
did voiceovers with Michael Bell, who used to say butter. So he named his house Casa de Butter or something like that because he made so much money.
Great. Jocelyn, before we speak a little bit about your roles, you've been on television and cinema in very famous production. I want to ask you first, because we refer to this era, the 50s and the 60s of the last century, as a golden era in Hollywood. So I want to ask you about what is your perspective about growing up in this era and studying and meeting, I think you met a lot of uh, artists of that golden age, there were, a lot of big
Yes,
names,
I worked with
in cinema.
a
Yeah. So
lot of
how was to grow up in this era? Your own in your own words. I mean,
I think it was fun because at the time, though, I didn't really know who all these people were because, when you're little, all you
yes,
do is look at their face. And I remember I
yes,
was looking at Humphrey Bogart and I noticed his teeth were yellow, I guess, because he smoked. And when you're a kid, you
yes,
notice things that probably you shouldn't be looking at, but that's what you look at. And then I noticed Susan Hayward. I thought she was beautiful. And
yes.
I worked with Rock Hudson. He was handsome, and Robert
Of course.
Wagner. And they were all, when I was a
Wow.
little kid, he was like playing with me kind of. And all of these people were just like my friends at the time, but later on I found out why they were famous because I didn't know what they did. And I was telling somebody
Hmm.
last week that I sat on Ginger Rogers' lap, and they were like, "You did?" And I said, "Yeah, we were at a party, and my mother had taken some pictures, but in those days the pictures were kind of, the film wasn't so good quality, and we didn't think of making a better copy, so it's kind of, gotten faded with the sun and everything. But I
Yes,
had met so many very interesting people, and most of them are so nice.
of course. And you spoke to me about studying and everything, and
About
I
what?
see in the 70s, yeah, in the 70s, you co-starred in very, I mean, famous television series. You appeared in The Magician with Bill
Oh yeah,
Bixby,
magician
and
Bill Bixby,
uh,
and later on, I
and
actually
Kung Fu
became a
with
magician.
David Carradine. You know, Bill Bixby for me, it was a big
Oh
thing
yes, that
because
was
I
the
was
kung
born
fu episode.
71. Yes, tell me about that.
Are you there?
Yes, yes, you came back, no problem.
Okay, so
Yes, we were speaking about David Carradine in Kung Fu. You appeared in one of the episodes. How was it to appear in
uh,
Kung Fu? It's a
it was
cult
a very
series right
very
now.
thrilling episode. I worked on that show for 13 solid days, starting in the morning. I had to get up at
Yes,
3:30 in the morning. It was freezing cold, but then of course it got hot later on in the day. And
yes,
I didn't even know him, and my first scene was saying goodbye to him and being very grateful for everything he did, even though I just met him. So that's how, it's kind of funny how sometimes, they don't shoot in sequence all the time.
yes,
So
yes,
I was, I remember I had to be very grateful. And then I got to ride on a stagecoach. Do you know how hard it is? It was really funny because there's no shocks on a stagecoach, and it's all like metal and you're bouncing around. I mean, it was fun at one point, but it was also like rough. I was like, wow, these people really had to ride this going across, the
yes,
whole country with the rocks, and there's no pavement. Think about it. So there's a lot of things that people take for granted, like shock absorbers. They didn't have that in those days. You just get on the stagecoach, and you're like, well, so that was something I realized. And that part was very grueling because I had a lot of crying in it. And when you cried for
yes,
many days, you know how it kind of hurts your chest. Your ribs
of
are
course.
so. So that's what I remember. I remember, oh my God, it's really emotional. And we had to
Yes,
do some pickup scenes. And I remember he was eating an apple in my ear, and I'm supposed to be crying, and I'm trying to focus, trying to be, sad and get in the moment. I crunch right in my ear. But that's why, you have to just do it. You have to bring it on. And it was a
yes.
large part.
You
I think they're
know,
female.
yeah, it was a great episode. I see as well you appeared in The Magician with Bill Bixby. He was a big time star in the 70s. Then he did The Incredible Hulk, which
Yes,
is
and he also
something.
directed.
Mhm. Yeah,
He
yeah,
directed
please
it,
go
and
ahead.
yeah, and that was
Ah,
interestingly enough, now I'm a magician. I work at the Magic Castle from time to time, and I do work as
yes,
a magician. But when I did that, I wasn't a magician yet. So now
yes.
it means more now.
Also you appeared in The Fall Guy with Lee Majors. Also, he was a
Yes,
very big
I
time star
actually.
at the before that with $6 Million Man. Of course, Steve Austin. Uh, but you appeared as well in one of these movies, right?
Yes, that was. I played. I had a co-starring role as Candy, and I was supposed to be in a bar. So my voice, this is my normal voice, but I did a
Yes,
voice like this because I'd been in a bar. I was like, one of
yes,
those bar ladies, and I had a deep voice. So I tried to talk,
yes,
like this. used to talking this way. So I just changed it up, because I tried to get, and my friend goes, that was you? They thought they dubbed my voice. I go, no, that was my voice. I just, I do a lot of voiceovers. So
Yes.
I have a very,
Yes.
very high range and a very, very low range, very low.
Great. Joycelyne, I want to ask you about something. Of course, you know that in the 80s and the 90s, there was the rise of, VHS tapes and independent straight-to-video productions. And you did a lot of these kind of independent or indie films. Of course, you remember many films you did, like Shattered Images and Total Force, and many films. I want to ask you, since you've been, in different eras, you've been performing, acting in different way. What can you tell us about this era? Was this era better for yourself as an actress, or right now, with the rise of cable and streaming services, how do you see yourself in both eras? Between
I
straight to
think
video
it,
and between streaming service. Yeah, go ahead,
I think
please.
better as an Asian actress right now, because there's more diversity, if you will, across the board. And I think
Yes,
that there is more opportunity because there's other technology that's made it more inexpensive to make projects. Before, it
yes,
would cost $500 to shoot 10 minutes of 35 millimeter film.
of course.
That's expensive, right? It adds up.
Yes,
And now you can use digital prints, and even with photography, you can just erase them right away. You don't have to pay for film and developing, and so it's much simpler and cheaper. And so in that respect, it's easier for people who are beginning. They don't have a huge budget to be able to get their stories told on screen. So I think that's
yes,
an advantage. And there's ways that you can put out your product, because there's, as you know, Amazon has stuff, Netflix, there's all these streaming shows, there's Hulu, there's also just YouTube. YouTube is how a
yes,
lot of people actually got
of
started, like
course.
Justin Bieber. And a lot of new people got more chances to, start up, like Billie Eilish, even, because they, before that, didn't have a chance of getting exposure. But people find you now sometimes. And so that's a good thing
Yes,
for newcomers. And also, because do you know this movie Sugar Man was shot on an iPhone? It's crazy
yes,
what you can do nowadays. Before, there was just the main networks like ABC, NBC, CBS, the big three, and then ABC, CBS. Oh, and then they had 11, local channels, and 13, and then they started bringing the CW. And so now there's so many channels, there's so many markets, that it's in a way it's overwhelming. There's a lot of people that I don't really know. Sometimes I do red carpet interviews, and I kind of have to see who people are because I can't know everybody, whereas before they had just regular movie stars, and that's kind of
yes,
not as prevalent. Of course, there are mainstream movie stars that everybody knows about, but there's quite a lot of people that
yes,
maybe are famous YouTubers that I don't know all of them.
yes. Jocelyn, yeah, I want to ask you, because you spoke about your work with David Carradine on that episode of Kung Fu, and I want to ask you, during these years, did you do some stunts yourself? Did you do your own stunts?
The stunts?
Yes. Did you do
Yeah,
some stunts in the film yourself without using a stunt
yes.
woman
I
or a
I've
stunt
never had
man?
I've never had a stunt double. I worked with some stunt men, and I've got two movies that I'm going to be doing this year where I'm going to be training to do some stunts. And I'm really
Uh-huh.
excited about it because I love doing these challenges. You know, I do dance class. A wonderful teacher. She's a Bob Fosse dancer, Kate Wright, and she's been on
Yes.
Broadway. And so
Uh-huh.
she took over Patrick Adyart's class. Patrick Adyart was on Hullabaloo. He was a crown prince in The King and I, actually. And I I met him again. We were at a party, an Oscar party, and he said he worked with I said I worked with Jerome Robbins, and he said so did he. And I said, what'd you do? And then he said, and I didn't recognize him. He didn't recognize me. And then we had a reunion. And then he said I should come to his dance class. And that's how it all started. And then I ended up going to Scotland and doing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival about 3 years ago. And
Yes.
I started doing a burlesque show. So I have all these amazing costumes that I can use on my cooking show, which is called Cooking In
Yes.
with Joycelyne. And I love doing the costumes because, you just want to be entertaining as opposed to, well, I'm teaching people how to cook, but I'm also doing it in a
Yes.
fun way so that it's not just
Yes.
normal, not boring. We do
Yes.
some
Yes.
magic on the show, and I'm scheduled to shoot some
Excellent.
next Saturday. I have a magician that I
Excellent.
work with. His name
Excellent.
is
I
Bill.
saw the website.
Yeah.
Excellent. I
That's,
saw the website.
yeah, that's fun to do. And
Yes.
so I costumes that I use
Yes.
for
Go ahead, please.
the burlesque and the cooking show and the magic.
Yes.
And you told me to
You
wear
know,
costumes,
Jos.
so see, I'm kind of wearing a dance costume.
Ah,
I
excellent.
thought, okay, I'll throw a costume on. I just had a boring T-shirt before you texted me, and you said, "Can you wear a
Yes.
costume?" And I
Yes.
said, "Okay."
Excellent. Jocelyn, I want to ask you, since you began, decades ago in the entertainment business, and you do your own stunts, you do calendar, like you told me, you appear a lot of times in sexy scenes in bikini. I saw some nice photos with you with Downa Lee, in some films you did together. I want to ask you personally, how do you take good care of your body? It's advice for all women, if I may say.
Well, I took weight training at UCLA, and I think it's
Yes,
really a effective way when you don't have a lot of time to add a little weights
yes,
to your workout. But dancing is wonderful because you're not only building your muscle, but you're also elongating and you're stretching, and it's giving you flexibility, which is important because
yes,
sometimes you've heard of muscle bound. It's where you just have knotty muscles. And when I was 9, I said to my dance teacher, why are my calves bigger than yours? Because when you keep doing repetitive, plies, I was getting a balled up calf. And she told me, you need to stretch the muscle out. So then I started
yes,
learning that it's not only good to just, build a muscle, but to be able to stretch it and to be flexible. And that keeps you from getting
yes,
injured, because some people get hurt because, their body isn't flexible. So flexibility is key. It's very important. So I've been making sure, when you do the dance class, that's what it does for you. It gives you flexibility. And
yes,
I think just wonderful exercise as well. And then she does a little section with some weights as well. If you do a lot of
yes,
reps with light weights, it's good for slimming. If you're doing slower, heavier weights, smaller amounts, it's good for bulking up. And so it
yes,
depends on, what you want to do with your body. But I think as a dancer, you want to be able to be flexible and, to get those muscles just lean as opposed to just, knobby. That's all I can say.
yes. Yes, but Jocelyn, I can see you have some upcoming projects and you filming some projects as well. I mean, cinema, beside your cooking show, and I see you have a shop as well for German Shepherds. This is correct?
Oh, yes. Well, that is a friend of mine that was using my backyard because I rent my backyard
Excellent.
for events. I
Really?
make
Hmm.
It's really gorgeous pool, and it's deep. It's 10 feet deep. So I was renting it to use for this dog display because I have a beautiful garden. And so she asked if she
Yes,
could come and bring her puppies, and they're adorable. So yeah, so that's why I said, all right, because I like people to
yes,
enjoy. I have a little gym in the back. I have dressing rooms.
excellent.
I shot several movies in the back, and also I've shot music videos and underwater photography. And I put a
Excellent.
big white scrim over the jacuzzi. So the lighting is fabulous because it bounces light and makes everybody look fun, beautiful. And so I keep thinking of ways to improve the surroundings. I've been planting a
Yes,
lot of different plants that are, food plants. And I like to use fresh herbs in my garden for my cooking show.
yes,
The other day I made a salad and I had fresh mint, I had cilantro, I had green onions. And once you put them in, you could just cut the tops off, and then it just keeps regrowing, and you don't have to keep buying it. It's also, good for the environment because plants let oxygen and they help, your environment. So I like to make things that are healthy but simple because a lot of people
yes,
don't have time to cook much. And so I try to keep it under 15 minutes to make something that's also inexpensive because everybody can
yes,
make a steak, or let's say, lobster, mostly expensive food. You can make that good, but you can make regular daily food that isn't expensive, like let's say potato salad.
yes,
It's much more
yes,
economical to buy whole potatoes than to buy, let's say, a bag of let's say chips. And it's absorbed a lot of salt and oil, whereas you can make something very simple, but if you just season it properly, you can make it good, and you can change the way it tastes by adding currants or nuts or different seasonings. Sometimes I like to put cumin in. It gives it sort of an Indian, you know, style flavor. Or if you put sesame seeds, soy sauce, you can give it an Asian with ginger. You can do a lot of different things using basic food, but just flavoring it differently. And I
yes,
try to give people tips. So I'm in the middle of my cookbook, and I'm not going to exactly say, use this, use this, use this. I give what's called variations because that way you can make it your own. Let's say you don't have raisins, you could use dried
yes,
cranberries. You can even cut up dried apricots. You can put dried figs. You could put
yes,
different things to give it the same sort of sweetness, but make it more unusual. So I think that's why it's fun to be creative. I don't like to have the same thing day in and day out. I like the variety of trying. So you know what I do? I do not taste my food before I'm fixing it. I want to be surprised just like
yes.
everybody else. It's like going to a restaurant. I want to, try the food for the first time.
Excellent.
And sometimes I'll just be serving everybody and I'll go, this is really good.
Excellent. Jocelyn, I want to ask you about what projects you are working on. I mean, some stuff you finished and we will see them soon. And what are you filming right now if you're filming some stuff as well?
We just finished doing an episode of Kung Fu Horror Theater, but it's being edited. This year in January, Amityville Uprising is a movie that
Yes,
just came out. And then we have Emmanuel too, where I got to sing in it, which is another adventure. And he's going to be doing one called Fatal Needles of Death. It's about acupuncture, and
yes,
and it's kind of, you know, fatal. So that's going to be fun.
yes,
And then I'm going to be doing a Western. I'm not sure the title. See, sometimes they change the title, so I'm not sure. But that's
yes.
why this is
Mhm.
one of my dance hall outfits. I always,
This is
have
great.
a lot of choices. And then I'm working with Marnine Fields, and she's got another movie that she's written, and she's an amazing stunt woman. And so she's going to have me play a social worker. And she said I have a fight scene. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's fun, I
Uh-huh.
think, to do those kinds of scenes. I like to do variety.
This is great. Joycelyne, I want to thank you very, very much for this lovely interview. It is a pleasure to have you. And I look forward for your next projects, cinema, cooking, calendar, you know,
Yes, and
backyard,
I'll get your
everything.
address and I'll send you one.
With pleasure, with pleasure. This will be
I'm
a
going to
great,
be setting
a great,
that for
a
you.
great pleasure for mine. And can I ask you something? Can you do a simple magic trick in camera before we close the interview?
What do you want me to do?
A simple magic trick on camera before we close the interview.
A simple what? Oh, a magic trick. Oh,
Yes.
I don't have anything that I brought. You have to tell me in advance because it's because the magic we use, we have to bring the stuff to do it. Like I'm going to be
Yes.
doing one on milk bottles on the 13th at my house. We're going to use that, and then I'm going to take the milk and make something out of it.
Excellent.
But I don't have
Excellent.
anything with me. But I would have if
Excellent.
you had told
No,
me in advance. Like you told me to wear a
next time,
costume, so I did that.
next time we do something. Next time we do something. Next
Yes,
interview.
absolutely.
Okay. I want to thank you very much. I wish you a very lovely evening and best wishes for your upcoming projects and
Thank
for
you
your
so
cooking
much.
show.
It's been a pleasure talking to you,
Yes.
and have a wonderful day.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.